Hello guys, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a good year so far. But I thought I would start off this year being, personal. I thought I would just record a commentary just as like a little personal chat, and this one is going to be about my mental health. It's also going to be reflecting. I definitely would say right now that the giggly, happy, bubbly sort of tone I've got right now is due to my anxiety just bubbling to the surface, because I'm nervous about the perception of this video. I want to be more personal on my channel, however, it is really nerve-wracking to let people in. And if sharing my experiences can help anyone, even if it's only just one person, then this video has done its job. I also thought that sharing my own personal experiences, especially with counselling and antidepressants, might actually prove helpful for some people, because I know that if it wasn't for my dad saying that he was on antidepressants in November of 2019, I wouldn't have even thought about antidepressants in the first place. So just him bringing it up was enough for me to question whether I needed it. I might need this. I might need help. 2020 has been incredibly difficult for everyone, and it hasn't let me up mentally at all either. In this video I plan to discuss a lot of my mental health. I know I've done it in previous videos in passing at the end of like art commentary parts of videos, but I want a place where I can just have all of it in one video. This is for me going forward, and also for other people who just want to know. This video is going to be in different sections, so I am actually going to have timestamps to where you can jump ahead to if you would like to. I don't know how long this video is going to be as of recording this. It's just going to be however long it needs to be. So in terms of talking about my mental health, I'm actually not entirely sure where to start, mainly because I could start from the beginning, or I could start from where my life just decided to jettison off a cliff. This just gives you a little bit of insight into my mindset in this video right now. I think the best place to start is setting a bit of a scene, because it really is almost like a story in a sense. Let's set the scene. So from September of 2015 till the beginning of June 2018, I was enrolled at the University of Worcester for illustration. For those of you who have been on my channel for a while, you'll know this. And some of you will already know that I was very overweight during this time. I was also commuting back and forth to university, so I was suffering from the isolation that commuting can bring about, living my life through a train timetable. Also living off the convenience food from the shop next to the train station. Due to my weight and my isolation and everything that was going on at the time, I had incredibly low self-worth, next to no confidence, yet I had this online presence that was slowly growing. Weirdly, it was keeping me going, and live streaming kept me accountable because I could actually live stream what I was doing at university. It gave me a schedule and consistency, and after a while I got used to it, to the point where I was confident and excited to live stream. First and second year passed without really much issue. Second year went well and I got the grades that I had wanted to get. But then third year came around. Now third year I usually describe as scaling a skyscraper, because that was what third year felt like in terms of its workload. But before third year had even began, I was told by my mom that my granddad was on his last legs. He was declining, and it would likely that he wouldn't even see Christmas that year. The year was 2017. Now my live stream schedule at the time was every Saturday, and I would post a video on Sundays. My granddad passed away Saturday the 18th of November at 10 o'clock, and at the time I was live streaming. When recording, I actually left this bit quite a while after I said that. I had a long pause to myself because everything else just went out my mind. It's also really weird because that night that I was streaming, I remember saying that I have a gut feeling something is wrong, but I can't put my finger on what it is. And I found out when my dad called the house phone instead of my mom first. Now my dad doesn't usually call very late at night, and it could only be one thing. Let's just say My dad was really stupid that night, because I figured it out almost instantly. I didn't want to believe it. It was only confirmed when my mum came home later that night. At the time, my live streaming software was actually recording everything to my computer, so I still actually have that specific live stream where I found out my granddad had passed away. Just everything in my life that I had bottled up finally broke down. I've said this before to my counsellor, but I'll say it again just to reiterate the fact that my granddad's death was never the cause of any of my issues before, but it was the breaking point. It was the moment I let down all my walls, all my defences were broken. I describe it as the dam breaking. Let's pause for a second, I just want to say this. Weirdly, when I think of my emotional dam breaking, I think of a scene from Thomas the Tank Engine, like the really old series. So I made it into a meme. I hope you enjoy what my mind actually sees.
Toby was halfway across the bridge when disaster struck.
After the death of my granddad, I went through 2 weeks of severe grieving, and mentally, emotionally, and physically, I could not feel anything. I was so numb, I cannot remember those 2 weeks at all. During those 2 weeks, I didn't attend university at all. I didn't get anything done during those 2 weeks whatsoever. And since the workload was already so high, you can just imagine how that would be when I get back. I have to deal with my granddad being gone, as well as the intense workload that I was even struggling to keep up with before he passed away. I've said this in my university regrets video, that I regret not signing up for mitigating circumstances for all of my modules, not just one of them. Because all of my modules, except for one, were across semesters or in the second semester, I thought it wouldn't affect the first semester at all, except for this one module, so I just applied for one module. Looking back, I really wish I would have applied for mitigating circumstances for every module, because it really had an effect on my final grade. My target was a higher second class degree, which is a 2-1. In June of 2018, I finally found out my grade, and it was a 2-2, which is a degree class lower than I wanted. I was really sad and disappointed in myself that I got a 2-2. I really wanted that 2-1. From May 26th until the beginning of July, I suffered with postgraduate depression. I didn't know this was a thing until I actually searched it up, and it actually has the name of the graduate blues as well. Just, I did not know that. I wish I would have known that at the time, because at least then I wouldn't have felt so alone. So if you have graduated and you feel like crap because you haven't done anything with your life, and you feel like a complete waste of space, you're not on your own, because that was me for most of 2018. Even in 2019 as well. I don't think I really ever got over that postgraduate depression throughout those 2 years. I say it lasted until July, but really speaking, it was like in the background from July onwards. Basically, what postgraduate depression is that you've gone from the high of getting your degree, you've completed 3 years, or 4 years if you've done it partly part-time, of your degree. You've finally got it in your hands. You're on such a high, and then you're just thrown into the real world. Just like, oh, what do I do now? The fear of the unknown really makes you full of anxiety about the future, as well as you're not very comfortable about adapting to that change. A lot of people take time to adapt to change, some longer than others, and also it feels like your friends have got it all together. Some of my classmates from university have done incredible things, while I feel like I've done absolutely nothing. I'm really happy for them, but at the same time, I can't help but feel depressed about what I've done. At the beginning of July 2018, my mother decided, okay, it's time to actually bring you along to a Slimming World class. My mother already attended Slimming World herself. Physically, I was never feeling that confident in the first place, so I really needed that confidence boost that weight loss would bring to me. And by the time my graduation came round in November of 2018, I'd lost just a little bit over 2 stone. For those who don't know, a stone is 14 pounds, so I had lost 28 pounds at least by the time my graduation came around. In fact, the week after my graduation, I actually lost 2.5 stone officially. Obviously, graduation was bringing up the feelings of me being disappointed in myself by getting a 2-2, but my family were already proud of me for at least getting through university in general. I have this photo of me, my mum and my dad looks as if he's bursting with pride. Either that or he's bursting for the toilet, but I like to imagine it as bursting with pride. Also, it was November of 2018, the anniversary of my granddad passing away. Let's just say it was a really rough one for everybody, and my graduation was almost like a beacon of light, I suppose. So the beginning of 2019, for me personally, was very stagnant. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere or doing anything. Bear in mind, during this time I was also creating videos, I was also doing on and off live streams. I think by this point, live streams had become incredibly sporadic and very all over the place. I think mentally I was still trying to find myself, and even now I'm still trying to find myself a bit, although I've got a bit more of a footing on that. In June/July of 2019, I actually finally managed to get some counselling, but I only got 6 sessions, which frankly was not enough because it only started working week 4 onwards, and with only 2 weeks left to go, that does nothing. At the moment, I'm just trying to laugh off that stress because I am a cynical person, but I do try and see the best in things that are happening. At the moment though, it's kind of difficult, especially with the pandemic. But yeah, I was incredibly scared about this counselling ending. I knew I would slip back into my normal ways because I'm that kind of person just to slip back when you're not looking. I'm like a tape measure. Habits die hard. But me slipping back into my depressed ways was basically negated, at least for a little while, by the fact that I had my very first convention coming up. In September of 2019, I did my very first art selling convention. Because of all the work that had to be done for it, there was a lot of distraction for my mind, keeping up with inventory, ordering new items, making sure I got everything. There was a lot of different factors that kept my mind at work. The experience of my first artist alley was incredible, and I got to experience that with 2 other amazing artists to help me along with that first experience. I was also in my university town. It was just, everything went right. But in a way, it was almost like university in the depression that came after it, because once the event had finished and I was riding that high, and then I was trying to find other places that would accept artist alley applications, but I couldn't really find any until like the next year or anything like that. So it was kind of like I was back to square one, and because of that, my mental health started declining over the next few weeks, which was great. I don't know whether you can tell, but I'm being sarcastic. During October 2019, I was doing the art challenge Inktober, and everything was going okay until my light pad decided to die, and also my mental health just decided to die as well, because I had a panic attack in the middle of the month, and it was the worst panic attack I have ever had in my entire life. The fact I still hadn't calmed down from it hours later, and when I called my dad up, my dad noticed instantly that there was something wrong. Even though he couldn't see my face, he could only hear my voice. I was stammering my speech. It really left me in a state of helplessness that I can't even describe. And even to this day, I look back at that moment and think, you should have got help after that. You should have. But I didn't. I just kept going. I don't know how, and I don't know why. It just happened. As they say, life goes on. It doesn't stop for anyone, even though in the moment it feels like it stops for you. Everyone around you keeps going on, but you feel like you're stuck, you're trapped. That's what it feels like. In November of 2019, I came across this community project that helps to mentor and support young adults. I came across it through a jobs fair that I attended. During that jobs fair, I didn't feel very up to doing anything or seeing anyone in that place, but I thought I would give it a go because it was part of my commitments at the job centre, and I didn't want to let anybody down since I was already letting myself down quite a bit. And this organisation really, really helped me. They gave me the necessary support and all of the resources that I needed to try and help myself. They helped put in place more counselling. They helped me out with my antidepressants or anything that I had problems with or anything that came up. I cannot thank them enough, and I don't know whether you can hear in my voice that I'm kind of choking up about it because I don't know where I would be right now if it weren't for them. But before I came across this organisation, also, in November of 2019, I had an encounter with my dad that would set me on a path to self-help. Not that I knew it at the time, but it planted the seed in my brain. And that talk was about antidepressants. My dad just told me that he was taking them. That's all he said. Obviously we did talk about other things as well, but that was the main thing that stuck, the main thing that I remembered. I kept asking myself, do I need help? Why am I asking myself this? If I'm asking myself this, then surely I do need help. You had that panic attack back in October. Maybe you should? I don't know. I'll keep thinking about it. I'll leave it for a bit longer. That was my thought process. It was still in my head for the next month, throughout Christmas. Now, Christmas for me is a time of great happiness. I love Christmas, to the point where I have multiple different Christmases. Part of my family has German roots, so we celebrate on the 24th, as well as the 25th. On the 24th of December 2019, I was around my nan's. It was Christmas Eve, and it was kind of tense, mainly because the topic of discussion was my nan's mortality. I was sitting in the kitchen, just minding my own business, and then my dad turns the conversation to about the fact that I haven't got a job. I haven't done this, I haven't done that with my life. Basically just pointing out all my flaws in front of me. If he watches this video and he doesn't remember it, I could completely understand. It was a passing conversation. It was like a passing comment that you could just forget very easily. But for me, it stuck. I'm one of those people to bottle up their feelings and bottle up their emotions for years and years. That obviously did me no good. When the dam broke the first time, the dam started to sprout a leak again. Next was Christmas Day. It started out really well. It started out amazing, actually. My nan and my aunt came over with the dog in the afternoon. I got my presents from my mum Christmas morning. Everything was good until the evening, when everything was calming down. All that was left was me feeling overwhelmed by everything. The last 2 days had taken its toll, and depression started creeping in again. It's like that intense emotional high, and then once it's over with, what is there left? Even recording this video, it's brought to my attention that that's a pattern. I have such emotional highs and then such emotional lows. It's like a roller coaster. It's something I don't subconsciously see in my own behaviour. However, when I say it out loud, it makes me realise, oh wait, yeah, I do that, and that is a pattern. Oops. This recording is almost like my own therapy session in a way. But that evening of Christmas Day, I sat there sobbing how I was so useless and pathetic, and I thought myself so low, and I was just so down. All the emotions came out all at once. But there was a break in that, and in that break, my mind said to me, get out your notebook, now, write down everything that is wrong with you, because you are going to take that to the doctors and make yourself an appointment. That was my breaking point. My second breaking point. I look back and think to myself, why did it take me breaking down twice? Maybe even 3 times at this point because of that panic attack. But why did it take so many times for me to tell myself, you need help? It's because I've always told myself the same thing. I've always said, I'm fine. I always put other people ahead of myself. When other people's problems come up, I always put their problems ahead of mine, so I don't have to think about my own problems. I'm definitely an emotional sponge. I soak up other people's negative and even positive emotions as well. It's like when you walk into a room and there's this tone or atmosphere about the room. It's like that saying, read the room. Well, my emotion and my brain does read the room. And I would say it does it a little bit too well for its own good. Now we get to 2020. Now, 2020 for me is like a year of 3 months, and then the rest of the 9 months felt like they didn't exist because, this pandemic. But the first 3 months of the year were actually pretty productive for me. So in January, I actually did those competition illustrations, which I said I wanted to do at the beginning of that year, and I basically hit the ground running straight away. My very first appointment with my mentor was actually the 2nd of January, and I had a doctor's appointment for the 8th of January to get my mental health sorted. Everything was starting to slot into place, and I thought 2020 was going to be my year. Little did I know that a global pandemic would hit. I sound really happy and chirpy, but I'm saying this from a hindsight perspective. If I don't laugh about it, or if I don't find any kind of light or hindsight in it, then I'm going to cry about it. Also in 2020, I sought help from the organisation known as the Prince's Trust. Now, I didn't say the other organisation's name because I personally want to keep some stuff in my life private and to myself, if that makes sense. But the Prince's Trust is a very well-known UK charity that helps young people build confidence and help to start a career or a business. Now, I talk about confidence and how I lack a lot of it. Now, yes, I did actually gain confidence when I lost a lot of the weight, but that was physical confidence. The mental confidence never caught up, and it still hasn't caught up with me right now. I was still working with my mentor at the time from this other organisation, but they suggested maybe looking into the Prince's Trust to help me out with my business endeavours because I lacked a lot of confidence in setting up my online business. If you've been on my channel for a really long time, it has taken me up until 2020 to start commissions. I've been talking about starting commissions for at least 3 years, since 2017. And while this was all going on during the January, so this was only month 1 out of 12, pandemic hadn't even been called yet, I was job hunting, I had job interviews as well, all while starting on a course of antidepressants. So everything was happening at once, basically. Why do you think February I was so burnt out that I basically vegetated for half of February? So I'm not really going to be delving into the 2020 experiences as much as from 2017 to 2019, and that's mainly because my experiences with antidepressants are literally intertwined with 2020. So this topic is going to be more so about antidepressants than it is going to be about 2020. So it starts with that doctor's appointment on the 8th of January. I was extremely nervous to actually go to that appointment, and it took everything to even make that appointment in the first place. It took me about half an hour just to even dial the number of my doctors. And trying to book an appointment where you have to explain to the receptionist that it's about your mental health and you don't know how to explain it, it's really rough. Once I had my appointment, I had my prescription in hand, I was ready to go to the pharmacy and pick up my prescription. I went to 3 different pharmacies myself, and what I had been prescribed didn't exist anywhere. I've never been able to properly swallow pills very well, so my doctor had prescribed me dissolvable capsules of Prozac. Now, maybe they do exist somewhere, but at least from the chemists I went to, they don't. And in that moment, I felt like every bit of help that I was in the process of going to get was stripped away from me, and I was sobbing on my way home. I was so distraught that I called my mom and I said, I got my prescription, everything is going wrong now, what do I do, what do I do? So we went round 5 other chemists and nothing, or at least they were on back order for like a really long time. So my mum said to me, okay, we'll go back to the doctors and get the prescription changed. So instead of dissolvable capsules, I was actually prescribed the liquid. Because of the delays of getting the prescription, the 10th of January was my first day of taking antidepressants. So I find it really weird how it's kind of matched up with the timing of this video. The world really does work in mysterious ways. I knew I was always intending to do a video about my mental health, but I didn't intend it to be pretty much exactly a year to the day I started antidepressants. Now that was unintentional. Now, the one thing my doctor did say about taking antidepressants is that the first 6 to 8 weeks are very rough, and I should be careful. Now, I've already told you that my January was jam-packed. I would say the first symptom of this medication was the drowsiness, because I felt so tired all the time. It knocked my sleeping schedule through so many loops. It tires me even to think about it. I mean, from the end of university onwards, my sleeping schedule has never been the best. And considering I used to live stream until ungodly hours of the morning, my sleeping schedule has never been great to begin with. But this medication knocked me through so many loops, because one night I could have insomnia for days, and then days later I could be in bed by 9 p.m. I haven't been to bed by 9 p.m. since it was my bedtime as a kid, and I willingly would go to bed at that time, even be tired. It eventually did even out, but oh my god, the sleeping issues I've had. It knocks you through a loop. Another symptom was loss of appetite, and obviously that led to weight loss. But another symptom I experienced later on down the line was weight gain, and I will explain that, because it does sound like a contradiction, and believe me, I know that it's a contradiction, but kind of like how loss of appetite leads to weight loss. The symptom of numbness actually played a factor into my weight gain, because a natural reaction of me to actually feel something is actually to start eating. Comfort eating has always been a thing that I do to help me feel better within myself. So the weight gain was never directly caused by the antidepressants, but it's the resulting factor of one of the symptoms. Now, I've read the leaflet about several hundred times because I was really concerned with everything, and especially when I came on my period, I was having extreme period pain, and I wanted to see how my antidepressants would work with other painkillers. I also asked my doctor this in a further checkup, because we did checkups every 2 to 4 weeks to see how I was getting on and whether the dosage should be upped and whether I was taking it okay. And my doctor did say it was okay, but not to take too many, or not to go overboard, if that makes sense. During our checkups, she also checked upon me how I was doing with the symptoms. I'd read through the possible side effects, and one of them was actually suicidal thoughts. Now, I personally didn't really suffer with this side effect. The thoughts were more existential, more like, what's the point? Why do I exist? What's the point in me? More existential stuff than anything else. My doctor also suggested doing counselling alongside having antidepressants, and she actually asked whether this organisation that I had my mentor from would also supply an easier route to get counselling, because through the NHS there was obviously a waiting list. Even though the government are going to pump more money into the mental health sector, back in January of 2020, obviously that wasn't a thing just yet. Well, with the help of my mentor, I actually started counselling, and I had 24 sessions with this counsellor. Yes, during the pandemic as well, we had WhatsApp sessions. At first, they were every week, and they started at the beginning of February or mid-February. I can't quite remember the exact date. Oh my god, they were so helpful. I don't think I personally started to open up to this counsellor until I think about session 3. So the way the counselling would work is that they were in blocks of 6. So counselling sessions usually come in 6-week blocks. Really speaking, the first round of counselling I had back in 2019, that was one block of counselling. So yes, I did say that the counselling was in person, however this was before lockdown was even in force in February. Then it moved virtually, and then when restrictions were lifted to the point where businesses could actually run again, I actually went to a few in-person sessions. I think my last ever session in October of 2020 actually was an in-person session. Guidelines were followed, and we were extra careful. The UK has a tier system, and at the time we were under tier 2, so we could actually do some of the sessions in person. The 2019 counselling was way different to the 2020 counselling, and I would say that because, for one, they were two completely different counsellors, and two, they used completely different techniques. In my counselling sessions during 2020, a lot of family stuff was dredged up to the surface. Obviously, during this video, I'm not really going to bring that up because that's quite personal and private. If you're offered counselling and you've never done it before, I would recommend at least giving it a go, because it really did help me. It gives you another outlook on life, I think, especially from a different perspective that doesn't belong to anyone in your family. This person has no prior connection to you, so they hold no grudge, no bias towards you. For me personally, it also helped get me out the house, because my anxiety was definitely something that kept me inside the house, kept me avoiding things. But not only that, the things I found from the in-person sessions is that I was away from my own environment. Like talking to a person with a different perspective, talking to that person in a completely different space, somewhere where you can actually share all your deepest thoughts in confidence, is very comforting. Especially when it was virtual, the sessions were very nerve-wracking, and I would have to tell my mom or sister not to come upstairs while I was having my sessions virtually, because some of my thoughts and my innermost feelings could be offensive to them, and I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings. At the end of 2020, my association with that organisation that gave me the mentor actually ended, because it was a National Lottery funded project, and the funding for me being on that programme ended. But my work with the Prince's Trust still continues, and the mentor that I was given under the Prince's Trust actually has experience in the mental health field. So even though not a qualified counsellor, I can still share my insecurities with the mentor that I was given from the Prince's Trust. This video was more so for myself, a therapy session if you will, but I also know that this kind of video could help somebody else out there that's struggling. Hearing somebody else's experience can actually be incredibly helpful for knowing how to deal with your own emotions, relating to people. Sometimes the tiniest little things can have the biggest of impact, and if it wasn't for my dad talking about his medication in the middle of a shopping trip, I wouldn't have started to question myself. I wouldn't have started to get help. Thinking about that one little moment makes me emotional, because it's the reason that I decided to turn this self-therapy session into a video in the first place. I bet my dad doesn't even remember that part of the conversation, but it changed my life because it made me question myself. It planted the idea of getting help in my head. The rest was all me and my decisions, and if my video could be the same thing as a passing comment, like my dad's was, to anyone watching or listening to this video, then that's worth 100 times more than anything this video gets. I know this video is way different than anything that I've done on this channel before, but I wanted to start off this year right. I wanted to open up more, because bottling up has never really done me any good in every way, physically, mentally, and emotionally. If you've made it to the end, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.